I want to focus on what several Democrats have done recently, which is trying to blame you for the violence that occurred on January 6th. You were chief of staff at DOD. How many times did DOD approach Capitol Police and ask if they needed National Guard assistance?
I believe those letters are well documented, numerous instances, and numerous of those instances, those requests were shut down.
Now, am I correct that the Capitol Sergeant at Arms said assistance was unnecessary?
That's correct, Senator.
Who did the Sergeant at Arms report to?
The Speaker of the House.
That would have been Nancy Pelosi at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
And would that also be Chuck Schumer, then the Senate Majority Leader?
The Sergeant at Arms, yes, Senator, reports up there.
In one of the most explosive hearings on Capitol Hill, Senator Ted Cruz took direct aim at the politicization of America's top law enforcement agencies by Democrats. Democrats, according to Cruz, were hurling baseless accusations, blaming Patel for January 6th violence. But Cruz wasn't having it. In fact, days before the riot, the president had authorized 20,000 National Guard troops, but Capitol authorities and Mayor Muriel Bowser declined the help. Letters, orders, and chain-of-command evidence all point to Democrat negligence, not Patel's wrongdoing. Cruz laid out the uncomfortable truth. While Democrats scramble to shift blame, the real accountability lies with those who refused help. Capitol Police told no, National Guard denied, Mayor Bowser declined in writing, and who oversaw the Capitol security? The Sergeant at Arms, reporting directly to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Let's dive right in.
Mr. Patel may be, I don't know, but he may be the first nominee for FBI director in history who felt it necessary to plead the Fifth, to say that he wouldn't testify to a grand jury because it might incriminate him. Maybe the first nominee for FBI director ever to feel the necessity of pleading the Fifth. Shouldn't we ask for that testimony when the witness himself says he would encourage it? Finally, I would just say, we need to think about where we are in this moment. We have a new president. He's fired prosecutors who investigated him. He's investigating other prosecutors, or his Department of Justice is. He's fired inspector generals who might hold him accountable. And this is just the start. And as FBI director nominee, he's chosen someone whose primary qualification, in my view, is his willingness to say yes when everyone else would say no to whatever the president wanted, to say whatever he wanted, to do whatever he wanted. That's why he is sitting here. I mean, look at the people who held that job before Mr. Patel, the stature of the people that held that job, the qualifications of the people that held that job. And how can any of us think that his background, his qualifications hold a candle to the people who went before him? How did we get here?
But you will be and have been accused of just about everything they can. But I want to focus on what several Democrats have done recently, which is trying to blame you for the violence that occurred on January 6th, which even in the annals of ridiculous attacks, this one really takes the cake. So let's just focus on some facts. Let me ask you a question. What role did you occupy in the days immediately before January 6th?
Chief of Staff of the Department of Defense.
You were the Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense.
Yes, sir.
So to be clear, you were not rioting at the Capitol.
No, sir.
Okay. Where were you physically on January 6th?
In the Office of the Secretary of Defense in the Pentagon.
And what were you doing on that day?
On that day specifically, responding to, preparing to mobilize and deploy the National Guard once we got the lawful request from the local governing authority, which was the mayor of D.C. and the Speaker of the House.
Now, how many days in advance were you working to prepare the Department of Defense to help secure the Capitol on January 6th?
Days in advance, Senator. We were in the Oval Office on an unrelated national security matter with the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and myself. And the president authorized up to 20,000 plus National Guardsmen and women to secure any security measures necessary related to the Capitol. So we were moving to the fullest extent of the law before the requisite request came from a local governing authority days ahead of time.
And while you were Chief of Staff at DOD, how many times did DOD approach Capitol Police and ask if they needed National Guard assistance?
I believe those letters are well documented, numerous instances, and numerous of those instances, those requests were shut down.
Now, am I correct that the Capitol Sergeant at Arms said assistance was unnecessary?
That's correct, Senator.
Who did the Sergeant at Arms report to?
The Speaker of the House.
That would have been Nancy Pelosi at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
And would that also be Chuck Schumer, then the Senate Majority Leader?
The Sergeant at Arms, yes, Senator, reports up there.
Did Mayor Bowser, the Democrat elected mayor in D.C., either request or allow National Guard assistance?
She put in writing on the days leading up to January 6th a declination for National Guard additional support, and that letter is available publicly to the world.
And just to speak English for folks at home, a declination meant she said no, don't send National Guard. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Senator Ted Cruz once again demonstrated why he remains one of the most formidable and principled voices in the United States Senate. In the face of relentless partisan attacks and political theater, Cruz brought facts, logic, and firepower to a hearing that was meant to smear and deflect rather than seek truth. With calm authority and razor-sharp questioning, he dismantled the Democrats' narrative piece by piece. He made it undeniably clear that the chaos on January 6th was not the fault of those who tried to prevent it, but rather of those in power, like Nancy Pelosi and Mayor Muriel Bowser, who rejected offers for National Guard support even after the president had pre-authorized it. Cruz refused to let Democrats rewrite history or scapegoat national security officials for their own leadership failures. More than just defending Kash Patel, Cruz drew a bold line between accountability and political weaponization. He called out the Biden administration's abuse of power, the transformation of the DOJ and FBI into tools of partisan vengeance. And he reminded the American people that restoring integrity to these institutions isn't just important, it's urgent. While others on the committee focused on smears, distractions, and rehearsed outrage, Cruz focused on the truth. He stood up for law enforcement, for the Constitution, and for every American who wants justice to be blind, not politically motivated. In a political climate dominated by spin and double standards, Ted Cruz continues to speak the uncomfortable truths that others fear. His commitment to transparency, accountability, and the rule of law is unwavering. This hearing wasn't just a moment, it was a message. Ted Cruz will not let the American people be lied to. He will keep fighting, and he won't back down. If America is to restore trust in its institutions, it will take leaders like Ted Cruz, bold, relentless, and unafraid of the truth.